Hi, my name is Karen, and welcome to our show, Born to Art. As you all know, Montreal is filled with local talented artists of all sorts. In today's episode, we'll be discovering the art of chanting with Lea Longo. Hi, Lea. Thank you so much for being with us today. So I'm discovering talented artists of all sorts, and I know you are a singer, but you're not any type of singer. You sing mantras. And I know that you were originally a contemporary singer, so tell us a bit about all this.
Thanks, Karen, for having me. First of all, yes, I used to do pop rock singing about a decade ago, actually, and I had discovered mantras, and it was inevitable that it was going to be on my path.
I know you were in Hollywood also for a couple of years. You lived there, and you were quite successful. You had songs that appeared in famous movies and TV shows, and your dream was to be a pop singer, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I was trying to be getting to be a more pop star, and it was a very different vision and mission in those days. And then I moved back to Montreal. I settled in Montreal to raise a family.
So how did you end up into the whole mantras and chanting and that type of singing, which is completely different from contemporary, like, pop singing?
I know, it was actually by chance, you know, Karen. I was doing a couple of different yoga classes at the time, and I wanted to discover my yoga. I wanted to find which one resonated with me. And so I went online and I had Googled yoga classes, and then all of a sudden I saw this yoga retreat in India called yoga chanting. And I was very interested because I had never heard this type of yoga chanting. So I basically, it's a trip in India, and I had never gone to India as well. So I called up the lady, and it's funny because she actually almost didn't want me to go. She's like, no, I had told her I was a pop singer, and she said, no, this is no place for the ego. This is chanting and mantras. We sit on the floor, and we do no physical exercise, and it's all with the divine. So I was like, okay, it sounds interesting. I'll come. So basically, I went to India for a 2-week retreat, yoga chanting retreat.
So that's all you did?
That's all we did, and a little bit of yoga, but yoga chanting. Basically, that's where I discovered mantras in the heart, the mother country, India, in Oroville, in Madras, and it was unbelievable because all we did was chant for 5 hours a day and wake up and just be in a beautiful group and use mantras and meditate. And I tell you, Karen, I thought some of these people were on something because they were so happy, and I'm with my pad and my paper, and I'm just like, okay, you know, what am I going to learn things? And
you were taking notes?
I was taking notes, and so I went to the teacher and I said, you know, when are you going to, you know, teach? And she said, patience, my dear, you'll figure it out. And you know, and basically it took me 3 days to finally let go and just be in the flow, which is the source of mantra chanting. And that's how I discovered mantras. It was all through one particular chant is what transformed me, called Om Tare Tutare Ture Swaha, which is basically a healing chant. And I'll always remember clearly I was chanting the mantra when there was the drums and everybody's voices, and there's just tears started coming down, and it was something for me to really look into, because even writing my own songs, I had never felt such a profound experience and connection with a lyric. And this is not just a lyric, we are tapping into some divine source. And so that's how I discovered, and I never let it go since.
So a mantra, what is that exactly?
It's an ancient text, and if we would take the word mantra, man means mind, and tra means to liberate. So the goal of a mantra is basically to free your mind. It's basically, a mantra is a vibratory tool to free the mind. So you can allow yourself to connect with your divine essence and with the universe, and to raise your consciousness through the frequency. The ancient texts are vibrations, and when we chant the holy names of these texts, we are tapping into those frequencies, and so it allows us to purify our chakras and to connect with our inner self, and it opens our heart. I mean, in our kirtans, in our mantra classes, you leave one way, but you come one way, rather, and then you leave another being. So it really transforms you. It's a very healing yoga. It's called nada yoga, nad meaning the sound, the shabad, the sound of music, sound of frequency. And so it really is a yoga of sound.
And a kirtan, like, what's the difference? Kirtan, mantra?
Well, we chant basically mantras in a kirtan. A kirtan basically is a yoga, it's nada yoga, a shabad, where we use the mantras in a meditative fashion. And in a kirtan, basically there's a gray line between the audience and the leader, because when we chant together. So we're basically raising the frequencies together, and we become one voice. So by raising our frequencies, we're tapping into our divine self and opening up our hearts, and it really helps to stop the mental chatter that we have in our minds. So that's the goal of a kirtan, is basically to liberate our mind from everything that bothers us and just be in the moment, be flowing in the present moment, so you can tap into the realms of emotions that are always in our heart and let that flow. And a lot of people walk in a certain way, but they'll walk out in a more joyful way.
And so you weren't aware about all these things before you went to India? Like,
clueless.
Because me, before I met you, I had no idea what kirtans were, mantras. I'd never heard of yoga of the sound.
Well, you can imagine me too, coming from a pop and jazz background. I had no clue of this, and I studied, and I also wanted to deepen my practice by becoming a Kundalini yoga instructor, which uses a lot of mantras as well in the yoga class. And by doing that, I discovered a lot of mantras as well. And I was so clueless before India, and I'm just very grateful that this entered my life at that particular time.
So to be this type of instructor, is it necessary to go all the way to India? And
well, you could come to my class. I'll be your instructor.
So like, if you hadn't done that trip, you would have never, like, that changed your life.
Yeah, it did, actually. I'm not sure if I would have discovered mantras. I probably would have later on in time, but I'm not sure, because I'll always remember when I came back to Montreal, I was trying to find mantra classes, and I couldn't find any. So that is why I started Montreal Kirtan Community, where we hold kirtans every first Friday of the month in different yoga studios to expose this yoga. It's a tool, a healing tool that everybody can access and use every day. And so I probably not, because I wasn't exposed to that type of music here, and it was very hard to find in Montreal as well. I know it exists now, but it was pretty much underground in the 80s, 90s, even in the early 2000s, and I'm just starting to see a little bit of a shift now.
So how long ago did you start, like, coming up with these classes?
Well, I went to India in 2006, the very January of 2006, and then we started the classes in 2007, and so I've been doing it ever since. So it's been 7 years, yeah.
And this is one of the things that you do in Montreal to bring awareness to Montrealers who are interested in this type of, like, kirtans and chanting and...
Absolutely. My mission is to expose kirtan as to as many people as possible locally. So it's really a healing tool. It really helps a lot with a lot of psychosomatic illnesses as well. But if it's a mental issue, healing yoga, healing chanting, mantras can really help.
It's like if you're very stressed.
Very stressed, and you have a lot on your mind, the kirtan, the nada yoga can really help elevate stress And I think that's important in today's society where people are always running around. I was one of them. And by just taking a moment to be in the flow and be in the present moment and chanting, it just allows you to be and to meditate. It's an easy way to meditate. It's a natural, easy way to meditate with the mantra.
And you do that like every day, like in your personal life?
In the morning, yeah, in the morning. I'll always take a good 10 minutes in the day, 10, 12 minutes to chant and to meditate. If not just chant, at least to just sit and see what comes up. Because a lot of times I get a lot of my creative ideas when I'm quiet.
And those mantras, so you said it's sacred text, but I know you recorded like a new album and it's all mantras. And how do you come up with the melodies, or what inspires you for all that?
It's funny you asked that, because I always had more of a difficulty with texts when I'm still a songwriter, but I write less text these days. But when it comes to melodic content, I feel that I've been very blessed with the melodies. It comes to me very naturally. In fact, when I was very young, I used to walk on every sidewalk, the squares, and on every sidewalk, at every step, I would just come up with a melody, and I would just chant every time I would walk, to the bus stop. I would just chant these melodies, and I think maybe I was preparing myself for today, because when we started the kirtan classes, we had no melody. All I had were the mantras, and I knew what I wanted to chant and which mantras to do, but the melodies weren't there. So by doing them in a continuous fashion, they became basically the chants on my albums. So it comes from the universe. It comes from, I don't know where it comes from. It comes from, inspired from the guitar or from the drum, and then something comes to me and I just chant.
Did you ever sit here by the lake?
Yes.
And just so peaceful,
yes.
Just inspiring. So I know you have a new album that, could you tell us about it, what it's called and what it's about?
It's called Songs of a Siren. Basically, I was inspired by the Greek mythology, the Sirens, where the mermaid is seducing the sailors to shore. And I really love the concept, because I wanted to do an album of love chants, and just enchanted by her voice. It was just, that's the word that had captured me. So I did an album of love chants, and I put together the 3 elements of my musical background, being pop and jazz and of course mantras. And so I put 3 jazz standards, where I included the mantra. And basically it's a blend of mantra jazz. My friend calls it sacred jazz. It's really interesting because I never really heard it before. I'm not sure it exists, but I wanted to have something that really corresponded with everything musically that I've done in the past, because I've done a pop album, I've done a jazz album, and then I've done 2 mantra albums. So I said, well, maybe I should integrate all 3 now. And so that's where Songs of a Siren came about, and it's doing really well.
And so would you ever go back to doing complete pop albums, or that's finished? It's just the mantras now?
I'm hooked to the mantra.
You found your passion.
It's my passion. Yeah, it's a lifestyle. The mantra is it's a necessity. It's a tool. It's part of my being. When I chant the mantras, I always see changes. There's always changes. There's always room for improvement. We'll always have struggles in every human being between the light and the dark. And so when we chant mantras, we push the dark away for the light to emerge, and to raise our frequency and tap into all that's good in the universe, because there is also a lot of good in the universe. You just need to tap into it.
And I know you also initiated a festival, the Om Festival.
Yep, 2 festivals.
2 festivals. Could you tell us a bit about all that?
I think God or universe chose the right person, because when I get passionate about something, I'm pretty gung-ho and I do everything. I put not 1 but 2 festivals. When I went back to California for a festival that is huge in California called Bhakti Fest. When I returned, I thought, wow, it would be so great to have this sort of festival. Montreal is the city of festivals, but we don't have a yoga and music festival, a chanting festival. So I started the Yoga Chant Festival a couple of years ago, and this year it'll be the third festival where we chant all day long, continuous chanting, and there'll be a little bit of yoga as well. And it's just wonderful because it helps expose this sort of yoga in Montreal, the Montreal Chant Fest. And then also I also founded another festival called Om Festival, which talks about basically all different healing modalities. And chanting is one modality, meditation, there's also Reiki, massage, and all different types, yoga, medicine, alternative medicine. So it's Om Festival is a global festival for alternative medicine, and then Montreal Chant Fest is a kirtan niche festival to expose kirtan in Montreal. And
okay, so at the Om Festival, you don't actually do kirtans. It's
I
more
did.
Like,
I did the concert the first year with Patrick Bernard, which is actually a pioneer in mantra music here in Montreal. And it was more underground in the 80s, but now it's starting to grow a little bit more. So Patrick Bernard and I basically led the chant part, the kirtan part at this festival.
Yeah, because not a lot of people in Montreal, I think, are aware of this type of I don't know, like you're the expert at this.
Well, it's a niche. It's really niche, but I think it's going to be growing. The yoga community is really well tapped into it, but I would love for everybody else as well to discover it. Like I said, it's
because you don't need to be necessarily into yoga, like to come sing mantras and kirtans.
Exactly. The essence of yoga is basically to be enlightened, and we do yoga to make our body more flexible in order for us to meditate. So when you do a kirtan, you're basically cutting out yoga and going straight to meditation. So not that there's anything good or bad about that, it's just that it's a different type of yoga, and it's an easy way to meditate. It's a natural way to just allow yourself to connect with your divine self and just be happy.
So if people are interested in joining your classes or discovering more about like those festivals and your albums, they could just go on your website.
On my website, lealongo.com for sure, or also my my kirtan website, montrealkirtan.com as well. And they can find all information. We do kirtans every first Friday of every month here in Montreal in different yoga studios. So I'm very well exposed this sort of yoga with all the different studios, and everybody gets involved. It's really wonderful, really a big family, and I think it would be great to have more people join in.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today and making us discover kirtans and mantras and all that.
Thank you, Karen. It's such a pleasure. I'm so honored to be here, and thank you for having me here and to explain the yoga of sound, and I really hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Namaste.
No complaints, no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams, placing bets. But I have learned that all you give is all you get. So give it all you got. I had my share, I drank my fill, and even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down another road, beyond a hill, and do it all again. So here's the light and all the joy it brings. Here's the life to dreamers and their dreams. May the Lord bless the whole world peace and goodwill. Loka samasta, Suki no bhavantu.
I hope you all enjoyed discovering the art of chanting with Lea Longo and her musician Rad. I'll see you soon. I'm Karen. See you in another episode of Born to Art.